I'm serious. Thank you, man. You got my back. All right, Betsy Johnson. We have a full class today. It's great. It's awesome. Always room for more, but it's sweet. According to American composer, composer is not a word. According to American composer Leonard Bernstein, Mozart's works were, quote, bathed in a glitter that could have come only from the 18th century, from that age of light, lightness, and enlightenment. Over it all hovers the great spirit that is Mozart's, the spirit of compassion, universal love, even of suffering, a spirit that knows no age, that belongs to all ages, end quote, Leonard Bernstein.
Lecture number 4.
This is lecture number 4. Yes, sir. Correct. In fact, thank you for the kind of informal reminder. I'll begin with that in a second about what everyone has missed, kind of, and people watching online later, kind of the catch up, whatever. If you don't want the Bernstein quote and you want something more contemporary to Mozart, Joseph Haydn, with who he collaborated with, you can see we'll talk about this in a second, but quote, wrote, posterity will not see such a talent again in 100 years. And he tells Mozart's father, I tell you before God, and as an honest man, your son is the greatest composer known to me by person and repute. He has taste, and what is more, the greatest skill in composition. Haydn, of course, or Haydn. How do you pronounce his name? Haydn, excuse me. Wow. Epic fail. I'm doing composer today and Haydn. This is freaking brutal. So the composer and Haydn, Joseph Haydn. Thank you. Haydn. So I can do the spelling, but I can't do the pronunciation. Yeah. I just get an F. My grade is F. But anyways, does Mozart need any kind of introduction? He does not, but we're going to get after that. But before we begin anything, most important, shout out to, it's not the sponsor of the show, but I'm still drinking coffee from Monica's. Monica's Coffee. What's the motto? Monica's Coffee, everything else is garbage. Monica's Coffee, once you take a taste, you'll think you're dead in a good way. Let's work on it. Let's work on a motto. Maurice, it's your job for next class. Come up with a motto.
We beat Thomas Hammer.
Monica's Coffee, we beat Thomas Hammer. I don't just inspire me that much. Monica's Coffee, you hammer things afterwards. Whether it's good or bad is contextual. And we hammer. But you just don't want it to be like we get hammered and forget to work.
I was gonna say I was gonna get hammered and drink Blackbeard Porter.
Monica's Coffee. If I was gonna get hammered, I drink Blackbeard Porter. Very good. Okay. Welcome to everyone. Let's see, chat. Let's see what it says here. Betsy Johnson. Wow, Betsy, there's a red bubble. I was waiting for a huge thing. It says hi. Hello to you, Betsy Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, the absolutely just like incomparably noble and amazing Brad King asked, do today's class number 4. It is. For everyone watching later online, I believe this is Maple Syrup episode number 268. But for beauty class, I know for 100% it is number 4. And as I said earlier, so far we've covered Hildegard of Bingen. She was episode number 1. And then we covered Saint Sebastian. And then we covered Antonio Gaudi, especially focusing on the personage of Gaudi, the famous architect of Sagrada Familia Cathedral in Barcelona. We have Mozart today, Bo Jackson on Wednesday, and then next week, Ernest Hemingway. Anyone new to watching Maple Syrup History, again, just send me an email at intellect@vandalcatholic.com and I can send you the link for the playlist of all these episodes. What's been very, very cool, I make this spiel every single time, but with the COVID era, I started recording these for Zoom. And then I was like, I'll put them onto a channel. And that was extraordinarily slapstick at first. And now I've got to the point where, especially our last 2 classes, Beauty now ongoing, but the Catholicism and Disasters, are in an actual playlist on a channel called Maple Syrup History, the playlist is. And they're just very easy to find. And so if people are like, I wonder if he's ever done an episode about the Titanic. The answer is yes. I wonder if he's ever done an episode about the ethereal, evanescent concept of swagger. The answer is no. With both, you can do control, find, and see. Like that, you type in swagger on my channel, then nothing comes up. But Titanic, it does. It directs you there. So if anyone wants to kind of see what's going on, let me know. Today is episode number 4. Welcome to all the wonderful people in class. A most special welcome to Betsy Johnson. And welcome to I was going to say hundreds of thousands, millions following online. Okay, so that was point number 0, the kind of reputation, whether it's Bernstein or Haydn, correct? Was that right? Haydn, thank you. I don't know why I don't want to say Haydn, Joseph Haydn. Whether it's his contemporaries, Haydn in his own right, I can't pronounce the guy's name, but I've listened to Best of Haydn on YouTube many times. As like a playlist, is a monumental talent in his own right. Whether it's contemporaries, more modern people, and both Haydn and Bernstein, of course, within music themselves as composers, the average non-musical person as myself, Mozart is a name that speaks for itself, very much like Einstein, like Michelangelo da Vinci, one of these kind of people whose perhaps reputation is larger than the man to effects negative and positive. Sometimes it accentuates things that are true, and we can appreciate someone's genius. Sometimes it's unfair to that person. And we're going to talk about a lot of points, regarding that. Of course, last kind of business, the beauty class is largely biographical. We largely focus on one personage. Now, forthcoming, and this is on manualcatholic.com, the syllabus, or on the channel, Maple Syrup or Beauty episode 0, where I go over the whole syllabus. There are exceptions. We talk about beauty from the Bible. We'll do 2 scriptural classes. So, of course, more focused, obviously, on scriptural passages. We have a couple episodes on the Desert Fathers. So we're talking about a collective there, not just like Antony of Egypt, but the whole. It's almost always the kind of personage, individual people. So today's class we're talking about just Mozart, nothing else. I also like the board takeaways. So I have 8 points here that I'm going to start the class with now. And I'm going to read them. And they might not make too much sense at first, but I'm going to read them, let them sink in. And then when we do the whole, hour-long, 45-minute, whatever piece on Mozart, I'll come back to these in recapitulation, ask you, hey, do you remember this? What do you all think? So, number 1, starting young, does it matter or not? That's point number 1. What if it's a win-win? Like if you become, and of course, starting young, Mozart is a child prodigy at the age of 4, he can like sight read perfectly, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Tiger Woods is a very famous child prodigy golfer who is, really good at like age 3. Does that matter? And I'm asking, what if it's, a win-win? What if it's like, if you're lucky to start off very young, good for you. If you're not, shut up, stop whining, be good now. I mean, does it matter? That's question number 1. Number 2, dog for the competition, always composing. What do I mean? Mozart, he just had this insatiable desire to what, it's put in athletic terms, compete. And he just was always working on compositions. Does that matter? I know a lot of people actually find this very obnoxious, who are like, oh, I can't do it unless it's perfect. It's perfect. It's kind of this kind of crippling perfectionism. What if more like Mozart, just get it all done, get it done to the best of your ability, do a lot of it, and then refine, maybe putting it through that grinder. Now, a lot of you who know, especially the juxtaposition of Mozart and Beethoven, Beethoven is famous, reputed for being the kind of millstone, blue-collar worker, composer who suffered through it and did a lot of drafts. Where Mozart, anyone seen the Amadeus movie? Yeah. He's composing stuff, playing pool, joking, making dirty jokes. He, by the way, loved dirty jokes. I'm gonna tell you about his biography. That is true. He loved gross humor. That's a sign of. Sorry, go ahead. Great movie, yeah. Is that a sign of genius? Is that a sign of immaturity? Again, we're gonna. You tell me. Mozart is kind of famous for, he could write down a full composition on a napkin and you would not be able to take out one note. There's some story about some guy criticizing Mozart and Mozart saying, fine, okay, you can revise my composition, can make it better. And the guy cannot take anything out because it would collapse. It was a perfect house of cards in a good way of it was so perfectly composed, like an architectural piece. Nice, shout out back to Gaudi last class, that if you remove one piece from the structure, So is that where it comes from? This dog for the competition, this hunger, this I'm going to compose, whether it's on the first draft or I have to work through a lot. Should we take note from that? We're always trying to look, what are the beautiful things we can find from that? I can play Mozart for you. Oh, it's beautiful, right? Oh, great. Wow, dude. Any moron can be like, oh, I like Mozart, right? Because he's so famous now. That's my point about fame, that even if you don't like classical music, you feel like, well, I can't say I don't like Mozart. He's obviously great. I mean, who cares? I'm asking what beauty can we take from his work habits, whatever. Does that matter? This kind of constant, composition, constant work. Number 3, so number 1 again, start young or not, doesn't matter. Number 2, dog for the competition. Number 3, his dad is a teacher. His dad is his first teacher. Pretty soon Mozart surpasses him, his father Leopold. Does that matter? My dad is a former NFL quarterback. My dad was the president. My dad was head of the blacksmiths union. Like, do I have, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Does that help genetically with environment, or does it not matter at all? I don't know. Point number 4, Mozart in his youth learned a bunch of languages, or at least had that kind of like, I don't know that he was a polyglot by any measure, a person proficient in multiple languages. He was around a linguistic environment. Linguistics, I would argue, is a lot, is musical. It's like music. Does it help just, exercise your brain synapsing? I got really good at all these languages, and I realized like reading music was simple. It's another language. I don't know. Does that help? Point number 5, people don't recognize genius. Yeah, and in the Gospels, Christ condemns. He's like, oh yeah, you Pharisees, you guys build the monuments of the people that your ancestors killed. Very Testament, you do the exact same thing. It's so easy to sit here now and be like, oh, I love Mozart, bro, as you condemn the Mozarts of our age. You don't love Mozart, you don't recognize talent, you're just going with the crowd. You're just a dead fish floating downstream. Everyone says Mozart good, so you say he's good too. People of his age didn't recognize the genius. Many times he gets like kicked out, is not given the money or the due he's worth. In many ways, he doesn't become very, very comfortable till the end of his life. Then he goes bankrupt. He's not a spendthrift, whatever is the opposite of that. Yeah, again, people just kind of assume, I think, well, people recognize Mozart for the genius he was in his age. Haydn, correct? Not Hayden. Haydn did. Takes one to know one. Certainly people were aware of the monumental talent of his musical ability on its own. But that doesn't mean, and we do fall in this trap today, just looking back, oh, everyone was just like Mozart. No, absolutely not. If time heals all wounds, time makes even morons smart. Time like, oh, if I was back there, I'd get Mozart's autograph. No, you wouldn't. You'd be like denouncing Mozart. You'd be like downvoting him on Twitter. Number 6, can genius be constrained by official positions? Or do you got to be like a freelancer? Let me read, because I'm just going to go. I want these to be out there without my stupid rabbit holes. 1 is starting young matters or not. 2, dog for the competition. 3, does having a father as a teacher matter? 4, do languages help develop musical ability? 5, people don't recognize genius. 6, can genius be constrained by official positions? You got to be kind of a freelancer. 7, on ego. Is ego an enemy of beauty, or does it help beauties? Does vanity constrain talent? And number 8, is genius and beauty, are they fine focused or more widespread? What is more genius? What is more beautiful? This class is about beauty, inspirational to you. The real expert on the one niche thing. I mean, some people like the long snapper in football. He does one thing. He just snaps the ball. Man, he snaps the ball like Mozart, right? Or like, that's lame, dude. His position sucks. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. So those are your points 1 through 8. Who has free comments for me before I start? And I said free, F-R-E-E, not freak comments. If you have free comments, please keep them to yourself. Who has free comments? Anything they want to say before we get started? We did the board takeaways 1 through 8. We're going to come back to them at the end. Every beauty class will have these main points. The whole point of this class is trying to get a handle on beauty. What does beauty mean through the lens of Mozart? And what can we learn from that? Beyond just, I'm not trying to get some cheesy result. Oh, I hope after here you put Mozart on your playlist. Like, that's so stupid, right? If you like his music, I mean, great. In fact, all the haters online are going to watch steps and be like, why? There was not one Mozart thing in your video. There's freaking not. We're talking about him philosophically. Exactly. You can go look up on some dumb other channel, Mozart's actual quote unquote music. Who cares? This is about him as the person and stuff. So I'm not just trying to get you to fall in love with his music. Again, kind of point 5, any moron can like his music. It's objectively some of the greatest music of all time. It always will be. That is not under question here. But I'm just kind of, we're going to look at his biography and the kind of the person. Does anyone want to add anything before we get to getting to that point? Just going through who the man was and saying, why should we care? Who cares? Monica's coffee. When you're thirsty, you can chug it and you won't regret it. Monica's coffee. Monica's coffee, the new Gatorade. Why not? Why not, Brad? Why does my football team have to have Gatorade in their Gatorade buckets? Why can't they have hot coffee? And why can't they give their coach a hot coffee bath? You know, if he gets scalded, so what? Okay, there is yeah, I don't know. All right, guys, let's get serious. Barb, right? Let's get down to business. Okay, so Mozart once more, now just going through, you can take these down any order you want. It's just his whole biography and his whole deal, and we'll just stop and we'll just have a conversation. I really enjoy the conversational aspect of maple syrup history, of just making points and just what does it mean under the guiding light, the rubric of beauty, the good, the true, the beautiful. Mozart at the age of 4 can learn a song on the piano in just 30 minutes. He's self-taught, teaches himself the harpsichord, the violin, the organ, other instruments besides. And again, his father, that one of those takeaway points, was a musical genius in his own right. His father is not irrelevant. Trying to think of a good example here. Like, if you like baseball, Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He's a Seattle Mariners superstar in the 1990s. He's now been retired for a while. He's probably 50 years old. But his father, Ken Griffey Sr., also played in the major leagues. He's nowhere as close as good to his son, but compared to all baseball players in the world, Ken Griffey Sr. is one of the best players ever. I mean, he's a major leaguer. So think about that here. Leopold Mozart, his father, is very, very talented. He's not just like, oh, my son did do well. He, in his own right, if Mozart, the guy, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the son, the Mozart guy, if he's not so famous, Leopold Prize arguably, you know, has a higher profile. Maybe another great historical example you might know of is Alexander the Great and his father, Philip II. Philip II of Macedonia, one of the greatest kings of antiquity. Just so happens that Alexander the Great is maybe the greatest military mind ever. So he overshadows his father, but that should not diminish the import of the father. Here's my first thought for you guys. So again, right? People say Beethoven is more this kind of, you know, prototypical starving artist guy who has to really grind after. I know a lot of people that prefer Beethoven over Mozart. Anyone in that boat? What does the room say? Mozart's better, Beethoven's better. Online, the informal poll I just had, I got 53% Beethoven, 47 Mozart, already 26,000 votes cast. What do you guys think?
I'm a Chopin person.
Chopin is fantastic. He's Polish too, which is cool. I think that's cool. That's what I like the most about him. No, Chopin is great. Yeah, Chopin's awesome. Chopin is awesome. All of these people, oh, I like Tchaikovsky. I mean, all these people are like, you know, their names are their brand. I've heard people say Bach is the greatest, period. That no one even comes close, not even Mozart, no one's as good a like technical composer. You would know much more than any of us about this, I think. You guys, both with music, like, I don't know. But just Beethoven and Mozart. Any thoughts on that fault line? People often compare them because Mozart is seen as the greatest classical composer, and Beethoven is the kind of romantic, more, you know, speaking to the emotions of the heart. And Beethoven could have been actually Mozart's son in terms of like you know, age difference. Beethoven comes a little bit after Mozart. They're often juxtaposed. Any thoughts on that? Anybody? If not, I mean,
But you can't really compare them.
why?
And they're just different in their own right, and both geniuses.
Okay.
That it's unfair to pit them against each other in kind of competition.
Sure. That's very, very fair. That's very, very, very fair. Perhaps it is kind of apples and oranges, even when seemingly from the outside looking in, it would not be. These are two classical music guys, certainly. Oh, all sports are the same. I mean, can you compare a tennis player and a swimmer? We don't know, maybe, right? Exactly. So that's a very good point. Here's the first question I want to ask you, though. People say Mozart, yeah, he basically had this music kind of in his head. We're going to talk about Mozart and his Catholicism later. Obviously, this class too, people watching for the first time ever, maybe this class is at the St. Augustine Bandel Catholic Center. So we always include the kind of Catholic subtext. Some classes are very Catholic, very kind of like about a Catholic theme. Some are more subtly, some are not about Catholics at all. Like in the disasters class, talk a lot about this tornado in 1925 and a lot about this Protestant oligarch guy who was very Catholic, very charitable in his behavior. We're going to talk about Mozart's Catholicism. He was a Catholic, and his father claims that his talent was a gift from God. It was divine bequest, very much like Socrates said in the ancient world. Socrates would ask, "Is virtue learned, or is it given by God?" And that's a great question. You know, are we born with a talent, or do we develop it? I'm not gonna ask you that question. I could ask, that's too easy, I think. I mean, people become great football players because they're born with, inherent talent, or they develop it. Most people always say it's a combination of both and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm asking you this. People say Mozart, if you go by the divine bequest thing, the music was already hardwired into his head. All he had to do was just let it fall out. It was already done. It was there. Do you agree? Does that sound like a bunch of BS? Are there some people that are so genius, it just is on tap? And by the way, I've gotten really into plumbing recently. I'm not even kidding. I'm being dead serious. I love being a professor so much, and I would never pose as a this kind of, oh, I'm just like a plumber, electrician. I'm not a blue collar worker. That's just not my profession. But if I was ever going to do any kind of trade, it would undoubtedly be plumbing. We had some plumbing issues recently, and I was working on pipes and stuff, and it's just really fun. I find it very fun. So we had a clogged pipe. I unscrewed the pipe, and all this water rushes out of the bucket. It's unscrewed. The water pops. It's waiting there in the pipe to be dislodged. Is that what talent is like? It's just waiting for the pipe to be unscrewed, or is that so stupid? What do you all think? People claim Mozart could compose while playing pool, like in that movie, because all you had to do is unscrew the pipe, and here comes the water. It's just already there. Yeah, or does that sound so? Oh, come on. What do you all think?
I think so.
You think, yeah?
At least for certain people. I
Hmm.
think that Napoleon always had, he only slept 3 hours a night and he had compartments in his brain. He like was just able to, I don't know.
That's cool. I've never heard that. That's really cool. I was actually just gonna ask you, give me some other examples, but thank you for doing that. Okay. Betsy, do you have an opinion on that? Some people have high water pressure talent, just waiting to have the pipe undone and just gonna be there. Like it's effortless in a sense. Like we talk about that with Aquinas and kind of his philosophy. That Aquinas would sit and contemplate, and it would just be pure like buttermilk, like easy click clacking tap shoes on a glassy pond, just simple. Like just man, it's awesome. It's not strained and effort laden. I don't know. Well, that's food for thought. You guys can think about that. Let me give you some more background biographical information. Mozart's dates, in case you're wondering. Let's talk coolest classes. We've been rambling on with stuff that's like parts hilarious, part like very deep, other stuff even more funny. We haven't even told you his dates yet, right? A lot of people start off some boring class just telling you the dates of his life first. I say that like for 20 minutes into the stream. It's legit. He was born in 1756 and died in 1791. He was born in 1756 and died in 1791. That matters if you're like, wow, he was born 2 years after the French Revolution begins. 1776, he was 20 years old when Thomas Jefferson declared independence. I'm just like, that has nothing to do with the guy in Austria at that time, obviously, but for the kind of chronological contextuality, right? Those are his dates. Now, Mozart, like Haydn, Haydn, so last one, but I'm pronouncing correctly now, Haydn, okay. Like Haydn, Mozart is considered his prototypical blueprint, archetype of the classical style. He is a very, very versatile composer. Talk about the instruments that he learned as a child. He does symphony, opera, solo concerto, chamber music, the piano sonata. And a lot of these forms are not new. He's not inventing or reinventing the wheel. He's simply taking them to a level of perfection not seen before. And of course, he does a lot of religious music, right? What his famous, his Requiem Mass, right? Which, if I'm not mistaken, is never completed, correct? It's a work that remains unfinished at his death, but it's played during his own funeral. People say he was writing it for his own funeral. If you remember now the dates of his life, 56 and 91, he's 35 when he dies. He dies very, very young. So he visits Vienna after an early kind of rocky career in the early 1780s. And I'll give you that detail in full in a second. But when he finally gets to Vienna, the capital of Austria, it's where he'll achieve his fame, number one. Number two is kind of official court, his court position with the emperor. We'll talk about patronage. And he writes some of his most best-known works in this later stage of his life. He dies in 1791, so the decade from about 81 through 91, last 10 years of his life. He's talking about like a prodigy. And the guy is crazy famous already as like a preteen teenager. Again, he starts, his father, who's already good, remember, can take his son and show him off on these tours. And this is my boy, he's 4, look what he can do. He can play piano upside down. It's almost like a circus act. I mean, he's super, super famous already, you know, as 15, 16, 17-year-old. He's writing major kind of lifetime peak of career, which for some composers might be your late 50s or something in his 20s, right? This is his kind of most fruitful period, you can say. Anyone know what his physical appearance is like?
What?
His physical appearance. What does he look like? By the way, this class again is about beauty. What's number one beauty transcendental? We're going to probably talking about often beauty in the soul, a kind of spiritual beauty that definitely applies to music, a philosophical, artistic beauty. We'll talk about, you know, physical attractiveness too. We're going to talk about famous actors, Catholic actors. Yeah, I mean, like to be on stage, right? That's one of the people want to see attractive people. Oh, how dare you? How dare you? Like that's right. I talked to someone. It's true. I talked to someone in news media, and I'm like, is it true that they make sure the anchors, the lead anchors, are really good looking? And he's like, is that a serious question? You know, like, duh, of course it is, right? And so both JFK, the Catholic president, you know, I mean, you could look at him and be like, I think he's extremely handsome or not. Like he's reputed for his physical good looks. The physical stuff will be a part of this class as well. That actually would be stupid to be like, oh, that's just vain. We're not going to talk about that. It's the whole thing. Certainly physical qualities are not the focus of this class, but they're also a part of it. What does Mozart look like? It just, right. Quote, right? Quote, a remarkably small man, very thin and pale, with a profusion of fine, fair hair, of which he was rather vain, end quote. Another guy writes, quote, there was nothing special about his physique. He was small, and his countenance, except for his large, intense eyes, gave no signs of genius. Here's where I'm like, bruh, like, I don't really, he's 7 feet tall, and he looked like, you know, he was jacked out of his mind. I thought he was a genius. Like, I don't look at Einstein and be like, I can never tell you he's a genius because he looked like, I don't know. To at least to my mind, I have said many times, I think aesthetics matter a lot. There's 3 rules of design and build. Vitruvius, the father of architecture, gave these, and he said, number 1, a structure has to be stable and then livable. But number 3 is aesthetic beauty. I think aesthetic beauty matters. I'm not aware of any connection directly of people looking attractive and being intelligent, right? And people can make the opposite. Oh, often the opposite. You know, I don't think it like you can be smart, you can be dumb and ugly, or dumb and beautiful, or beautiful and swag, right? I mean, like, right? It could go any way. What do you guys think? Does it matter? Does it not matter?
It certainly helps with your career, doesn't it?
Sure. How do you feel about that? Honest answer. I love this about this class. This class is pure honesty. Is that bad? Like, it's just the way it is. Yeah. Okay.
Opens the door.
Yeah, it opens the door.
Depends on the field too. A lot of the.
Tell me a field where it's I want more attractive people, it matters, and one where it's like this is bad, it shouldn't matter at all. Do you have this? What field? Give me
So I was
some.
gonna say computer science, like almost in there. Some guys don't have like the best hygiene and stuff because you like could spend time like hours on a computer, you know?
So whatever, right? Yeah, who cares? Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
But I guess one that matters would be like you were saying, news anchorage or news.
Totally.
anchors,
Yeah.
Ones nowadays too. They care
Politicians.
more about looks than.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. Okay.
Should.
All right. His wife writes about his voice, quote, it was a tenor, rather soft in speaking and delicate in singing, but when anything excited him or it became necessary to exert it, it was powerful and energetic. What a supportive wife. That's really nice. She's like, his voice is kind of soft, but when he gets angry, I mean, look out. He loved the elegant clothing, like me and you, Brad. He was all about elegant clothes. You know, he's all like, and
So often carry a big stick.
right. He loved elegant clothing, and when he's on stage, he would wear these like, you know, very elaborate hats, coats, kind of gold-plated stuff. What do you think? Vanity, cool. I mean, okay, yeah, this is vain. This is so gross. St. Thomas More, a guy who's reputed for his holiness, had a quote once where he's like, I wear the gold for the people and the hair shirt for myself. And it was kind of cool. And what he meant was, I, in whatever role, for St. Thomas More, an important role in Henry VIII's court before everything goes sideways, I am this public figure, this politician. I should look as handsome and as noble and regal as possible. Kate Middleton, I'm not like some like fanboy, like whatever. She's great. She's very elegant. Like Kate Middleton looks like a queen. Looks great. If Kate Middleton purposely dressed grimy and stupid, it would look bad. It would be like, oh, she's so humble. Like, no, this looks gross. Like Kate Middleton, when she looks like, you know, very elegant and queen-like, I think it's very nice when her and William like are out and they look like, ah, there's the future king and queen. That's good. So that's the point St. Thomas More said. And then he said also, because Christ tells us to pray with a closed door, maybe Kate Middleton and Prince Will are wearing hair shirts and doing penance quietly. Then double the benefit, or triple the benefit. They get the beauty for us, the aesthetic beauty of nobility. They get the fake hate. Oh, they're so vain, and they're doing the penance only God sees. Everyone wins. And I don't know. Just the interesting thing, like with vanity, you see someone who's ostentatious. Oh, they're just so vain. Not necessarily. Actually, I know a lot of vain people in the kind of grimy thrift store mode, where they could dress nice. They're actually very wealthy, and they dress grimy on purpose and pretend it's humility. It's like it's not humility. You just look like a slob. So I don't know. I mean, Mozart, I don't know. Point number 5, next book. These numbers are totally arbitrary. They mean nothing. They're just my numbers. You can label number whatever. Mozart is a very hard worker. Remember, I love that motto. I say this every time. We have a ask me anything coming up on Wednesday. Spirit and life suppose. I mention this every single time. How much I love the Benedictine ora et labora, prayer and work motto. Mozart is very much about labora, very about work. He does tons of compositions. Remember that dog for the competition point number. He's always working. Contrary to, I just make up stuff from my head when I'm playing pool. He had a lot of sketches, a lot of kind of like, postulations. And what if I tried this? What if I, tried this musical style and cross genre, whatever? He's just very, very much, very kind of experimental musician. He's very credited for, remember this classical style. I'm talking about this now, that if you want to talk about 3 hallmarks of his music, people say there's 3 hallmarks of Mozart's classical style: clarity, balance, and transparency. It's scientific almost, and it's kind of like well tucked, perfectly knit together nature. A Mozart piece is renowned.
Clarity and transparency.
I would say no. I would say the way I would take it, let's talk about it. I would take clarity to mean kind of clarity of intention. This is a Dies Irae Requiem Mass. It's clear its intentions for a funeral mass versus like his Marriage of Figaro, very famous opera. Like it's clarity from the get-go. You're not left, there might be surprises and hidden stuff, and it's very complex. There's no kind of confusion of like, what am I listening to? Opposed to today's music, you're guys like flipping out into the microphone, like, what is this? Like, what is this style? I don't know what this means. Or like some of the kind of like the recent hip hop rap / techno arena. I don't know what that is. I may be the greatest music ever. It's not clear what it's. And transparency, I would say perhaps transparency in the composition, qua composition, the notes themselves. So clarity to me would refer to the thematics, and transparency to the actual, like the written music itself. That's what I would say. But again, you know much more about music than me. I mean that sincerely, so I don't know. But like balance, no, I'm just talking about like philosophical points and like almost like critiquing the philosophy of the philosophy of music. I'm not a musician at all. Both of you, know leagues and scores and bounds more than I do. The clarity, balance, transparency, the hallmarks of his works, this kind of scientific perfectionism, and people often think, oh, he's such a genius because he arrives at, and something the most important thing I say today, like, this is why people think he's beautiful. Finally getting to like, oh, Maple Syrup episode 4 beauty. Why do people think Mozart's beautiful? Because they think he takes an enormously complex genius thing that is plumber style pipe, ready to be unscrewed, on tap, and can make it clear, balanced, and transparent in a way that you cannot remove a single note without ruining the whole thing. That's genius. It's incredible. And then he's the beau ideal, lodestar, shining apex of the classical genre. What I'm saying is he actually worked very, very hard. He worked hard and he what hard? And he played hard. Mozart actually founded Las Vegas. People don't know that. I'm not even kidding. Mozart came to America and was so good at music that everyone living in America was like, there's not a country yet, but you can just go to the desert and we'll pipe a bunch of water in. And he's like, I want you to build me a fake Eiffel Tower and fake pyramid in the middle of nowhere. Like, we don't know what that means, but he invented Vegas. He invented the play hard, live hard, whatever stuff. He loved billiards. Billiards. What is wrong with my pronunciation today? Billiards. He loved pool. He loved billiards, dancing, keeping pets. You'll say including a canary. So what? Like, tell me how like a tiger, canary, whatever. That's not. I mean, if you had like an armadillo, you know, a platypus. That would be cool. Guys, by the way, yes, Brad, I'm announcing this now live. I one day will be the owner of a platypus. I'll have a platypus. Can you imagine how cool that would be? Like, just going for a swim in my pool with my platypus.
Duck, it's a platypus.
Platypus is like a taped together duck with like seal features. I don't know. Seal duck.
They sweat milk.
They sweat milk.
The females do.
Can you drink it or is it only for the baby platypuses?
I have no idea. And the male platypi have a poisonous spike on their fin.
Dang, so only girl platypuses.
Yeah.
The male guys, yeah, that's not good. Yeah, the male platypus have poisonous spike. Okay, I'm out. I don't want to know. They have you had me at poisonous and spike. Like even if the spike is not poisonous, no thank you. Oh man, that's brutal. They look so cute. Platypuses look so cute. You know, like and they have freaking poisonous spike. Yes. Mozart likes all this kind of stuff, and he has, quote, a startling fondness for scatological humor, which is like dirty bathroom jokes. Again, like I don't know, like yeah, I'll say always for the record as a Catholic, like we should always avoid sin, period. I love stupid jokes. I won't say dirty jokes. I love like, you know, there's tons of jokes I could probably never tell publicly that I find absolutely hilarious. So I get like kind of the absurd humor. How does this factor in? Open question. I'm asking rhetorically, but like, here's a guy, once more, right? Whole point of this class, whose music is unscrew the plumber's tap, pure genius, clear, balanced, transparent, just absolutely perfect. And so you might think, or some people might make a false assumption, he's all business all the time. He has no sense of humor. He's one of these kind of school marmish, leave me alone, I'm at work, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he did work very hard. He's an absolute clown as well. That movie, you said it very well. It's a very good movie. It shows his personality. You actually hate him at points. He's so obnoxious, right? In that movie. And I'm like, okay, like I realized a long time ago, and I still, you know, I'm 36 years old, so I'm an idiot. Like I've not lived life. This is a whole other point, but like I'm very much about like, ask someone who's actually, you know, whatever. I have no advice to give. And it sounds so absurd to be like, oh, in my years, but I have noticed even in the years I have, that there's no rules for like exceptional whatever. A guy can be an exceptional CEO and have this like terrible, stupid habit. And I used to always think, well, the one matches the other. It doesn't. He has this terrible habit, but he also just really good at like mathematics and being a CEO. Another guy has the perfect resume and he has no bad characteristics, but he sucks at being CEO. Why? Because he just sucks at being CEO. Like CEO, he's just bad at that. And it's just like it doesn't often like, you know, work together. Like, I don't know, anyone know who Diego Maradona was? May God rest his soul. Diego Maradona is an Argentinian soccer player, considered one of the, and I'm not a soccer fan at all. But he's considered one of the greatest soccer players ever. You probably heard the other guy who's up in Paris, Pele, who's considered maybe the greatest. They really are very close. Maradona, you would not think was a soccer player. He looked always like horribly out of shape. I mean, no, go look up Diego Maradona in his prime. He was very squat, out of shape. There's no, this guy's good. He was really, really good at soccer. Why? Because he was really, really good at soccer. Like the answer is the answer. It's like he just was good at soccer. And like no one would ever pick him out of an order. Like he looked out of shape, not fast, not good. He was an absolute genius with the ball at his feet. Mozart loved dirty jokes, was dumb, was vain, you know, powdered wigs, ridiculous behavior, just the greatest talent. And I often think about that, right? It's like that maybe people screw up a lot. They packagize people. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna get like this guy on Matt Fradd on these Catholic shows. And he's the perfect Catholic guy because he's got like Steubenville, let's say, degree, and he wrote the right book, like all stuff, but maybe he's just bad at like speaking and he's the worst guest ever because he's bad at being a guest. He's so freaking awkward and awful. And I don't have anyone in mind. I'm just saying, like, and people would think, how is that possible? He's, you know, he trained under Scott Hahn because he's a clown. He can't speak. He's a bad guest. And some other guy might go on there and like you think, why is this guy on, you know, Matt Fradd or something? He's the greatest guest you heard, or because he's just really good at that. So Mozart, let's just say that too, the other like entrance to his genius. Mozart, at the end of the day, was very good at what he was good at. Whatever else, I think people do too much mental gymnastics, analyzing his, I even did too much, I'm guilty of this, like how much do languages matter as dad. Mozart was very, very good at composing music and understood music, the language of music, both to teach himself various instruments, how everything worked in you know, in a symphony. He understood that perfectly. Him liking dirty jokes, I think has zero, he's just as good if he likes dirty jokes or not. And try to avoid, I would say, people are like, see, well, imagine if he didn't like dirty jokes, how better he would be. He wouldn't be any better. And the guy who's a really bad composer, let's give him some dirty jokes. It would make him a better composer. It's nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do at all, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People often like that full package. Like, it's not, how can this guy be good at running? He smokes like a chimney. It just works. He's good at running. Like my friend never smoked, and he gets his butt kicked by the guy who smokes every day. That's just better at the process of running. Things are not connected. I think we often like connect things too much where there's maybe no connections. All right. So let's take him through some, let's go through his kind of like life very fast. Once again, he's born in 1756. Listen to what his sister says about him as a kid. Once more, going back to the child prodigy thing.
How many siblings do you?
Mhm.
Just her?
That I'm not sure. Let me see. Can find it. Yeah, I don't have that information. I have no idea. I know he had a sister. She was probably pretty cool. You know, she's probably up for a beer in the convo at the local beer hall. His sister says, quote, he often spent much time at the clavier, picking out thirds which he was ever striking. His pleasure showed that it sounded good. In the 4th year of his age, girl, when he was 4 years old, are you freaking kidding me? In the 4th year of his age? This is freaking brutal. I already don't like her. I'm cancel the Theology on Tap with Mozart's sister. In the 4th year of his age, his father, for a game as it were, began to teach him a few minutes in pieces at the clavier. He could play it faultlessly and with the greatest delicacy in keeping exactly in time. At the age of 5, she knows how to speak normal. At the age of 5, he was already composing little pieces, which he played to his father, who wrote them down. His father wrote them down because, oh, look, my sweet boy, this is cute. Definitely loves his son. No, he's amazing, like, right? Mozart pretty soon will move out of the necessity of this internship with someone who already is very, very genius. Remember the Philip II, Alexander the Great. His father is a great musical talent in his own right. In his early years, Mozart's father is his only teacher, but he teaches his children. So I guess he had his sister, at least, perhaps more kids as well. I think I remember. I don't want to. This is my maple syrup money back guarantee. Even if you're like, maple syrup is free, there's no money. You're right, there is no money. But if there was money, this would be my my money back guarantee. I'm never going to give you false facts. I think I remember that he was one of few, and God rest their souls, tragedy of these times, who survived infancy. He had a bunch of siblings who died kind of very young. I don't want to misquote myself, give false information. In his early years, Leopold, his father, teaches his children not just music, but languages and academic subjects. Let me ask you now. That's one of our 8 points that we'll finish the class with. Is there any connection with musical talent and linguistic talent? Yes or no?
In linguistic,
Linguistic talent. I am not a very good musician. If I just spoke 5 languages, I'd be better. I'm the best pianist in the world. It's because I've mastered all these ancient languages. Does it matter at all? Or are we doing the thing before that these things have nothing in common whatsoever? Does it matter? Does it not
I
matter?
hadn't thought about linguistics, but I think it has something to do with it.
It might help, yeah, because there's some mathematical stuff about music and especially music and linguistics. Music is considered a language,
I was thinking
but
about-
also learning they'd say that knowing multiple languages increases your intelligence.
Sure.
That's-
progression that people that have a good music background quite often wind up going into computer science or engineering. And from there, sometimes they go up into being mentored. Like I had that type of primary position who was done this exactly in computer science. If you think about it, you're learning a language. You're almost like a high level language. You're almost acting like the compiler and the computer itself, and then you type it. So,
Okay, that's actually,
yeah. And so it's not uncommon to find those things.
I would say there's probably less of a connection. I am great with languages, my major is Spanish, and I'm great in singing, but instrumentally, I am horrible. See, catch me trying to play piano. Nope.
Okay. Risa, what do you think?
I've never put thought into it. Well,
Like you have computer science, like
yeah,
does languages help computer programming?
just languages.
Is computer programming similar to composition of music? Like writing code is like writing a symphony. Serious question.
I wanna say no, just because I've never had experience writing music. It's more mathematical, it's more like, but it is kind of like repetition of things, like different little like sections you would have in like music, you have like a different little section of code that does one thing compared to another thing that just kind of, okay, so maybe it is, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. No, I'm dead serious. I mean this, like, I have an endless appetite for sarcasm and good times. Like, I'm being very sincere in saying like, most of the work in these maple syrup classes are proposition or just like putting forward ideas. I don't have the answer. I don't know if it is or not. I am neither a musician nor a computer programmer. So I have no idea. I do wonder though, what if Monica's just stole Folger's theme song? What if we just like shamelessly? The best part of waking up is Monica's in your cup. What if we just like always went for it? And like didn't even apologize at all or cite anything and just realized like Gen Z knows nothing and they don't know that the song was big in the 90s and 80s. And then it's like, that's a catchy song. What do you guys think? I mean, I'd do that.
Should ask one of the law students, it's like possible.
Yeah, what is the public domain? And the law student will tell me something really dumb. And I'll be like,
Is it 8 bars of music? 'Cause if it's 8 bars or less. we
You can
use
sample?
it. Yeah, sample.
or you can say, it's like David Bowie and Vanilla Ice.
Exactly.
He stole the Ice Ice Babies and some David Bowie ripoff thing. I don't know. All right, guys, come on. I'm trying to be on time here. I'm trying to be on topic here. These Folgers and stuff. Who comes up with this stuff? Oh, that's right. It's me. My bad. Mozart, remember the point earlier about like he's not appreciating his time? It's true. So Mozart is not getting what he wants in Salzburg. He's 21 at this time. He's already truly, I could say, a world famous, is like the European musical scene prodigy. He resigns his position in Salzburg, moves to Paris, but not for a long time. He falls into debt. At one point, he has to pawn his valuables to kind of stay afloat. Again, these stupid modern assumptions. Oh, Mozart, he probably was like the YouTuber Mr. Beast. He probably had like millions of dollars. Like no, Mozart was famous, but it was one of those things where he has to pawn valuables. Now, a lot of it is his lack of maybe self-control with spending and stuff. But it's like he's not living high on the hog. And God rest her soul, God bless him. His mother dies in July of 1778 when he's 21, a personal tragedy. In Paris, he's always trying to get back to Salzburg, trying to get back to the Austrian Empire. So remember, he resigns Salzburg, goes to Paris for a brief sojourn, comes back to Salzburg in 1779, but he still hates Salzburg. I mean, I can't blame him for that at all. He will go to the Viennese court, to Vienna in 1781. But what's funny is he gets into this kind of spiff, and this is played out in the movie too, with the archbishop there. Mozart wants to go to Vienna, wants to be in the employ of the emperor. And the question here I'll ask and pose rhetorically, but just do all great artists need a patron? Some people say, yeah. A lot of the Renaissance medieval artists needed the Medici family to finance all their banking money, right? I'm personally financed by Elon Musk. So when this channel gets big, I want to say for the legalistic records, I am not financed by Elon Musk. But if Elon Musk is interested in financing me. No, it's a serious question, guys. It's a serious question, right? Like, do you need people like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, the Medici family of that time, emperors who have the purse, can open the purse to finance the talent? I mean, here's what Mozart says, quote, to his father: "My main goal right now is to meet the emperor in some agreeable fashion. I am absolutely determined he should get to know me. I would be so happy if I could whip through my opera for him and then play a fugue or two, but that's what he likes. Like, I want to make a favorable impression on the emperor and then get him to give me the money." And like, none of this is very normal. This is very like resume.com, whatever, like, for a performer at that time, especially someone who already has the reputation he does, which is even more confusing of like why he's bouncing around so much and finding, hard to stick in certain places. Because you think our assumption would be the whole world will be mad after his services. He's looking for a kind of stability. Well, he ends up in the court, but he's like, listen, man, this archbishop, listen, your excellency, comma, man. He's like, I want to do some like freelance work, right? So even his father, Mozart's father, sides against Mozart and says you should just work for the archbishop. Well, Mozart is very bullheaded, as all geniuses are. Question. I don't know. Maybe some aren't. How much of genius is like, I'm just gonna do it my way? Frank Sinatra sang a whole song about that. I'm gonna sing Frank Sinatra right now, and you guys would be like, "That's better than Sinatra," or you guys would be like, "I didn't realize you pressed play on Sinatra." Um, Sinatra sings a whole song about my way, right? Does that, or is that just bad? Is that just bullheadedness? But Mozart, no, he's like, I want to do it my way. Mozart gets a literal, dismissed with literal kick in the arse. A literal, okay, by the Archbishop Stuart Kent Arco. So Mozart, I'm dead serious. This is hilarious, but true. I'm not being sarcastic. Mozart gets permission to leave and do his own thing. To signify to the court he's gone, he has to sit there and a guy kicks him in the butt. Like, you're fired. Imagine if, like, in that old Apprentice show with Trump, when Trump was like, you're fired, they fired him and brought him up and Trump kicked the guy. Like, that's just so demeaning and embarrassing. But you know what? People say, well, this is a revolutionary step for his artistic growth. This enables the kind of meteoric rise, which for our intents and purposes, for the limited time we have, about 1782 to the late 80s, it's the last decade of his life. Remember, he dies in 91, excuse me, is when he becomes really, really prolific. He's always been prolific. He's always had that quote unquote, dog for the competition ability to go and work and all that kind of stuff. But this is when he becomes very much, keep it for like, why am I, here's my proper sheet. Okay. I thought I had misnumbered the sheets. No, it's correct. The mid 1780s are when he becomes very, very, when his reputation starts matching what you think would come from that reputation. Does that make sense? So you think that, like, he's so famous, he's making so much money, he's gonna be so, renowned, whatever it might be. This is the time when everything good. Nice. Cool. This is awesome. People are like online, what's happening? There's like so many guest appearances happening at school. If you're like, can people just like come into Maple Syrup History whenever they want? Yeah, this is an open school. I don't know what was going on in the hallway, guys, but it's great. I love the kind of like the free flowing nature of our class. It's awesome. The thing you would think would accrue to him from his reputation, like, he's so famous, he should have this kind of large platform and pay and all that, starts coming in the mid 1780s. And please note this, his two most famous works, which are what? What are his two most famous operas? The Marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni. 1786, 1787, 1788. Very kind of end of his life. Marriage of Figaro is a beautiful, amazing premiere in the capital city in Vienna. Don Giovanni, in October 1787, has a massive opening night in Prague, what is today part of the Czech Republic, but then part of the larger Austrian Empire, is less well received in Vienna, but still. At this point, you can say by the mid 80s, he's really been, his star is kind of like solidified in the firmament of how we look at him now. But again, people not recognizing genius, this does not come overnight. Paradoxically, he's a child prodigy from a very, very young age. And so you assume that his career is one kind of linear upward thing. Again, I wish we had more time to do justice to his entire life story, but suffice to say, it is not. He's traveling very, very young and going all over Europe. And we haven't even talked about that. What does that do to someone? Look at someone like Macaulay Culkin. I think, and God bless him, I'm not mistaken, I think Macaulay Culkin had some kind of problems, right? Like a lot of young actors do. Like, whatever. I think Shia LaBeouf was a star as a young kid. And now, of course, he's made this resurgence, especially with his conversion to Catholicism and playing Padre Pio. Like, oh, I wonder why. I wonder why it's tough for a 10-year-old to have millions of dollars in the bank and be told you're awesome, but then have to always live up to that forever and have no childhood. Mozart has one of these kind of like child movie star experiences. He's traveling all over Europe. What does that do for your psyche? And then what happens when he's trying to find a position and there's not a lot of pay, it's not being offered as much pay, perhaps he feels artistically constrained, as when he gets the literal kick in the butt dismissal, finally breaks away from what he feels into the constrained, limits of a position. My favorite part about getting into the biographical nitty gritty, the fact of someone's life, as you see, it's never as simple as it's presented to us. You know, hindsight is always rose-colored and the narrative is always perfectly arranged for us. Ah, JFK, you know, came from a Irish Catholic family, everything was great. JFK, World War II hero. JFK, when he was elected, actually everyone voted for him. Everyone in America. He had no votes against him. He was so handsome. Everyone loved him. Like, no, right? We just like make these narratives about people. And it's like, wow, he overcame obstacle A through Z. I love that fifth mystery, fruit of the fifth glorious mystery, perseverance. The coronation of Our Lady contained perseverance. And of course, it means spiritual perseverance to die in a state of grace, but to persevere in all things, to not quit. Mozart does not just have, you're the man, you're the man, you're the man, you're the man, billions of dollars. You know, he starts off incredibly stratospheric, crazy child prodigy, but goes through a lot of doldrums. His time in Paris sucks, both in the personal tragedy, the employment, you know, money. The idea that at one point, this famous guy who we think today, oh, you know, like it would be, he can just, you know, write a thing on a napkin and someone give him $1 billion for it. He's pawning his own personal things. Mozart is a lot like who in this thing? That you would think, oh, he lived high on the hog, whatever. This guy's even more tragic. I could have done a thing about him. You know, looking back now, we can't talk about everyone, but what famous modern artist is like, guy was dirt poor and now is paying himself for $6 gajillion. Vincent van Gogh, who cut off his ear, right? Van Gogh, like, may God have mercy, God help him, God bless him. Like, I'm pretty sure he committed suicide. I think he shot himself in total despair over his personal failures of the women he loved, I think, for whom he cut off his ear. And you could think, oh, that's so crazy. I mean, like the guy was heartbroken, right? And his paintings, and Van Gogh today, like literally, Van Gogh could like spit on a painting and it'd be someone would buy it for $200,000, right? Van Gogh, a recent Van Gogh sold, I think, for $117 million. And that guy must have really lived a great life. He probably just walked in the cafe, I'm Van Gogh. No, he couldn't give away his paintings. A lot of genius, not just delayed, as we talked about in the first class with Hildegard, where Hildegard's music is not discovered like 800 years after her death, but often in the time. It's like, that's why maybe once more our faith teaches us, like, you know, as Augustine says, focus on the city of God. And that's what's most important. Let God sort out when your talent star kind of emerges through acclaim or whatever, and all in God's time. It's not just simple looking back. Mozart, all his life was regaled. I mean, he's a lot of criticism. Do you think he has haters? He has tons of haters. I know this guy's great, but he likes dirty jokes. How dare you? You know, like they all kind of criticism because he's not serious, that he's this, that he's, you know, wasteful of his money, that he's egotistical. Oh, I don't like how his face looks, you know, a lot of stuff. It's very easy just to make him some like hologram of a person. Let's talk about, he dies in 1791. And indeed, you know, it's in the Catholicism disasters class. Any mention of death in this class, let's follow up with a mention of praying for their souls. You know, may his soul rest in heaven. He's a human being who lived, right? Maybe he's still in purgatory. I hope he's in heaven. You know, God have mercy on him. He lived and died. What about his Catholic faith? Well, Mozart, he was a Catholic. St. Stephen's Cathedral, which is the mother church of the Archdiocese of Vienna, is where he was married and where his funeral mass was held. Remember, one of his, if you're talking, oh, I'm not into Don Giovanni, I'm not into Marriage of Figaro, his Requiem mass, people often say, you know, it was written for himself, he wrote it for himself. The family, Leopold and his wife's name, Mozart's mom's name is Anna Maria Mozart. They were a devout Catholic family who encouraged, according to a simple biography, you know, encouraged prayer, fasting, veneration of saints, mass, and just encouraged the Catholic stuff. And praise God, all amazing good stuff, but no like surprises here. They encouraged the kind of A, B, and C bread and butter of Catholicism. Leopold writes this to his son in 1777. Is it necessary for me to ask whether Wolfgang is not perhaps getting a little lax about confession? God must come first. From his hands we receive our temporal happiness. At the same time, we must think of our own eternal salvation. Young people do not like to hear about these things. I know, for I was once young myself. But thank God, in spite of all my youthful foolish pranks, I always pulled myself together. I avoided all dangers to my soul, never kept God and my honor in the consequences, the very dangerous consequence for my eyes. Of course, he's talking about, you know, God forbid, you know, falling into mortal sin of any kind, eternal punishment, eternal reward, questions of heaven and hell. Like, he comes from a devout family. Remember, Leopold, his father, what kind of relationship do they have? I'm not going to get into fathers and sons. I will personally say, I thank God every single day. My father, I'm just speaking for myself, aware that not everyone has this experience. My father was my hero. I love my dad. He's the greatest father ever. Like, I have that kind of experience. A lot of people who don't, right? I mean, it's fathers and sons. It goes a lot of different ways. I don't know what Mozart's relationship with his dad was. It was good, not good, whatever. It seems that his father loved him, pushed him to be great, which I always take the argument that I don't think that's bad. Oh, his father denied him a child. His father signed talent, tried to have him realize it. He did. What's wrong with that? Tiger Woods' father was so bad because he made him golf when he was 3. No, right? I mean, like, I'm sorry. Tiger Woods, and God bless him, all the problems he fell into later, it's not because his dad made him golf at age 3. Like, it's once again the thing about like this guy likes dirty jokes. You know, Tiger Woods and his personal problems, you know, whatever they are, with his marriage, and yeah, right. Like people who live in, you know, glass house shouldn't throw stones. I mean, we should always, you know, I'm the worst of sinners. I'm not judging Tiger Woods. I'm just saying whatever his problems are, they're not because he was a child prodigy golfer and won the PGA Tour. And I personally, sorry, I hate golf. Not from like golf. I think golf is the word. I don't think golf is even a sport. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. Like it's an incredibly difficult, beautiful sport. I don't like golf. This isn't some personal thing. Tiger Woods, you know, amazing athlete, right? Arguably one of the greatest golfers, if not the greatest of all time. I don't know if he ever caught up to Jack Nicklaus's record of major tournament championships. Tiger Woods didn't go off the rails if he did because his dad made him a great golfer. No, God bless his dad for that. So I take a very positive view of Mozart's father, of like he was serious about the faith, raised his kids in the faith, gave them best of his ability. Seems like a decent dad to me. And his dad was always like, you know, that my son's talent is from God. Because I, Leopold, am this devout Catholic who's also a good musician myself. I know him. Remember, humility is the acknowledgement of truth. I'm not the best, but I know I'm good. My son is so much better than me. It must have come from God. And he actually says, it is ever, and if it is ever to be my duty to convince the world of this miracle, his son's talent, it is so now, and people are ridiculing whatever is called a miracle and denying all miracles. But because the miracle is too evident and consequently not to be denied, they want to suppress it. They refuse to let God have the honor. End quote. So he's like, I'm trying to tell everyone, like, no, I didn't do this. Stop giving me the credit. We know God did this. Mozart is awarded the Order of the Golden Spur. Here's a citation. It is a form of honorary knighthood bestowed by the Pope. That's pretty cool. I have 5 of these. Yeah, they called me again. You want a 6th? I'm like, come on, guys. This is getting out of hand. Just get someone else. Seriously, Pope Francis, he texts me. I tried to delete Pope Francis' number. I blocked it in our WhatsApp chat group, but he keeps texting me. He's like, surprise, surprise. He's like, guess who? I'm like, it's Pope Francis. Pope Clement XIV bestows this honor. Here's what the papal kind of citation says for this award. Quote, inasmuch as it behooves the beneficence of the Roman Pontiff and the Apostolic See that those who have shown them no small signs of faith and devotion are graced with the merits of probity and virtue, shall be decorated with the honors and favors of the Roman Pontiff in the said see. Golden cross on a red sash, sword, and spurs. This is honorary knight. It's cool. I'm you know, haha. I love the ambiance of our class. Everything is always laughter and humor and mirth, and I love that. But being very serious, it's a really cool thing. It's just an award like you are a distinguished Catholic in the arts. It's what we'd call it today. Kind of like what's the one award? Of course, there's like the MacArthur Genius Grant people are given, but there's something like the Kennedy Center gives you a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's one of these kind of things. Golden Globe, Lifetime Achievement. All right, Mozart, epic fail part of his life though. Mozart becomes a Mason. Why is this epic fail? Well, if you don't know, the Catholic Church has condemned Masonry more than anything else. And the reason why, I consider myself a very liberal person. I don't mean that politically. Like, I won't tell you what I am politically. Maybe I'm like super crazy conservative, right? Maybe I'm way over to the right. I'm not going to speak what I am politically. I've said a million times on that score, I'm just a Catholic. So there's probably a lot of parts of me there that are very, very much on the right and conservative, and other parts. When I mean liberal, I mean like, I'm very much like the American, like, do whatever you want, man. Like, I don't care what you do, whatever. Like, you know, I'm like, you do you, I'll do me, whatever. For me, like 100%, without a question, the Catholic Church is the total truth, nothing but the truth. Christ is Lord. But outside of that, like you want to, I don't care, join some group. But why does the church condemn Masonry? Because Masons themselves, in their own doctrine, set up like a universal competing religion. It becomes a kind of violation of the first commandment, idolatry. The Masons in their inner circle stuff will ask members to just profess belief in a supreme being. And a sensei, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or Muslim or Christian, whatever, or even believe in God, just believe in some like life force kind of thing. It's really, so of course, I mean, this is an obvious affront to the idea of like Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. That is why the church has always condemned Masonry, not for like, we don't like the hats that Shriners wear or whatever like that, you know, and the Shriner guys, at least I knew Shriners in my area, did a lot of cool like charities and whatever. It's just that like the pledges they make violate in a very simple way, the first commandment, having no gods besides God, basically saying, yeah, Christ says he's the way, truth, and life, but whatever. It just doesn't matter what you believe, just believe in like doing good in the universe. And like that's the problem with Masonry. Leopold and his son, father and son, become Masons. Okay, again, now God have mercy on all of us. God have mercy on me, number one, right? Before I judge anyone, let me look in the mirror, right? Remove the beam from your own eye. I'm like, oh, this Mozart. But yeah, like that's not good. That's epic fail F in terms of his Catholic legacy. Like, I'm not gonna, oh, that is a big deal for his Catholicism, but God alone can judge.
Did this happen after he lost the archbishop's patronage?
Yeah, I think it was mid 1780s, but again, a lot of people do this. I know people that have like weird competing ideologies. Right? I mean, it's humanity. I know tons of people who are like, see no problem with whatever. Like, I bet there actually are tons of Catholics that are Masons and don't even know that like you're not supposed to do that and like think, oh, whatever. I mean, again, I'm not justifying this at all. Like, once you know, you have an obligation to act. Even like the three constituent parts of mortal sin are full knowledge. I imagine if you just joined like the Order of Oddfellows or whatever, and you're like no idea like that the church says, no, you probably shouldn't be a member of like a secret society. Right, that might not have been a sin. You didn't know. But now that you know, you probably say, guys, I can't be a weird odd fellow anymore. I got to be a normal fellow or whatever. Right? So it's like, but I bet there are lots of Catholics who are also Masons, and I'm not judging those people at all. And I would never ever presume to know why people act in a certain way. I'm just saying this is what the church says. My favorite thing. Sorry for this long Catholic spiel here. That's my favorite thing about being a Catholic is like this is where we just okay. Well, the church says whatever. I'm gonna as a Catholic, I want to obey that. So he should not have done that. He should not purport to be a practicing Catholic and do something the church specifically says don't do. His motivations or whatever, even after this, to his credit, he doesn't abandon the faith. He doesn't switch. He tries to just does both. Maybe a guy, I don't know, guys saying he's he's the devout Catholic and he's also a Hindu at the same time. I mean, that definitely doesn't work. But I mean, some people probably try to do that. You saw whatever. It works for me, kind of thing. Mozart dies, he's buried in church. And again, let's pray for his soul. Let's pray for all of his departed. Our board takeaways 1 through 8, they'll probably make a lot more sense now, right? That's why I like this full circle part of this class. Number 1, starting young, does it matter or not? Well, you have some opinions on that now. You see, like, it helps him get famous, but doesn't do everything. His Don Giovanni and Figaro's later in life. I don't know if it matters. Number 2, dog for the competition. I'd say check mark. Be a dog for the competition. Fight, work, get after your stuff. Ora labora. Number 3, dad teacher. I'm just gonna say it makes his dad cool. It's awesome that his dad is supportive and like again, Tiger Woods' I think it's a positive dad story. Better be an involved dad than a deadbeat dad. It's better to like push your kids too hard to be the next great golfer than never to be around. So good for his dad, good on his dad. Number 4, he learned languages and music. And Marita, I loved your kind of even impossibility of answering the question. Is computer programming like composition? I don't know either. I don't just a question asked. And does it matter or not? Does learning languages help you as a musician? Maybe. You had an excellent point. Like, oh, I feel really good about singing, but playing is different. Even in music, there's some distinctions. Thank you. That's wonderfully explained. Number 5, people don't recognize genius. Yeah, don't give me this. Oh, everyone knew Mozart. No, they didn't. Not at all. Some people did, right? Haydn did. People who know what's going on did. It's obvious. I understand music. I did, but the common populace is. Someone once said, and I love this quote. Just think about how stupid the average person is, and then 50% of all people are dumber than that. And it's like, yeah, like there's a part of just like I just go along with. I don't have any beliefs. I expect to see what the crowd tells me. That guy's good. That guy's good. I repeat robotically. It's like, people, we look at Mozart now, he's become robotified. And even the dumbest person in society will say, oh, Mozart's great. But that just reflexively, it was not the case at the time. Number 6, can genius be constrained by official positions, or should you want to get a kick in the butt? Should you say, I will take the literal kick in the butt in front of the court, humiliation, to go be able to do my own thing. 7, ego. Is it a help or an enemy of beauty? Is vanity? I mean, Ernest Hemingway, who we're talking about next week, said, declare yourself the best writer. He's like, have the largest ego possible, basically, right? Just be like, I'm the best, everyone surrender your repentance. I don't know, maybe it does help. We absolutely know as Catholics, pride is the root of all sin, humility is good. But I think there can be, again, the thrift store example of dressing bad on purpose. If you're like, I have tons of money, I'm going to wear like shabby clothes to be humble is actually, that's actually pride. So maybe ego is like, no, I'm gonna honestly say by the grace of God, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm gonna try to become the best. Not a prideful, I'm just gonna make the most of my talents, like that Matthew 25. I don't know. It's the ego question. I don't know. And finally, is genius and beauty fine, focused, or widespread? Rhetorical question. Once more, one I cannot precisely answer because you got to kind of tell me the particulars of your preferences. Damien, do you prefer someone who's really good at one instrument that you like to conduct, or do you want someone who's got multiple talents, maybe isn't as an expert in the cello, but can do multiple? It depends what you think. I don't know. You know, do you prefer people that can do multiple things well, kind of jack of all trades, with true expertise in one thing, or and you get the rare people who are experts at multiple things. You get the kind of Da Vinci personalities, but they really are not a dime a dozen, they're a dime a millennium. You know, it's kind of rare, very rare to have that. Mozart certainly is a guy who's good at one thing. And I'm not taking that away from him. Mozart's good at one thing. Mozart's maybe bad at people skills. Maybe Mozart has a terrible sense of humor. He just likes dirty jokes. He has no creativity. He's not very physically like whatever. Like if you're like, well, that guy, I saw a picture of an Icelandic like berry farmer. That was like jacked out of his mind. Like his forearms were like that large. And it was a cool photo. It was like this guy's good at like a physical appearance. It was cool. It was a cool. I'm not even trying to be sarcastic and funny. It was just a cool photo. It was like, however, he's a farmer. Like he just like that guy looks good in his job. He looked like ripped and like, oh, the farming lifestyle is a healthy lifestyle. Mozart didn't have a good physical appearance. Mozart didn't have a great voice. Mozart was terrible with money. He was bad. He was so good at music. So maybe Mozart is an example. Beauty can be found in very fine focus stuff. But then his father, once more, I'm not trying to do this whole praise fest for Leopold, but maybe his father pushing his children with languages, whatever, gave him that head start. And then his son could really take it to the max. Until next time, next week we have, no, Wednesday, next week, what am I talking about? Wednesday we have Bo Jackson. That is going to be as fun as it seems. Bo Jackson, the only man ever to play in the Major League Baseball and National Football League All-Star games. One of like 10 to even play in the MLB NFL period, but like to be an all-star. I think Bo Jackson, my humble 2 cents, the greatest athlete in the past 100 years, the Mozart of sports. So we'll talk about what and Bo Jackson, he's still alive, very recent kind of figure. He was born in 1962, so he's still a young man. He's still 60 years old. He's not like, you know, oh, he's 103 and still alive, or he's, you know, he's very recent. His heyday was in the late 80s, early 90s. So we'll talk. I love that part about the beauty class. It's not chronologically based at all. We bounce all over the place. Bo Jackson next, Henry after that. See you guys later.